Jamal Roberts!
He walked into American Idol as a gym teacher from Mississippi, but what happened after Roberts won the entire show will break your heart. The unexpected rise of Roberts. In a world where fame is often born from glitter and privilege, the story of Roberts stands as one of the most unexpected twists in American television history. Picture this, a 35-year-old physical education teacher from Meridian, Mississippi, father of 3 little girls, walking into the American Idol audition room not with a record label's polish, but with a quiet confidence shaped by years of real-life school gyms, morning routines, and the weight of family bills. Yet somehow that same humility became his secret weapon. The audience didn't just see a singer, they saw a man who could have been their neighbor, their teacher, or their friend. When soulful voice filled the stage during season 23, something shifted. Even himself, known for his sharp tongue, leaned forward, caught off guard by the warmth and raw power of a man who'd been overlooked by fame for decades. That first performance sparked a movement, not just in music circles, but in the hearts of everyday Americans who saw in him a reflection of themselves, ordinary people with extraordinary dreams. But as history has shown, fame comes with its price, and his rise was far from smooth sailing. Because while the world fell in love with his story, behind the bright lights was a storm brewing that would test his strength, his privacy, and his definition of success. And as we uncover what happened to Roberts after that iconic win, one question lingers: did America's favorite teacher find peace in his newfound fame, or did the spotlight become too heavy to carry? From gym teacher to American Idol contender. Before he became a household name, Roberts lived a life so ordinary it almost felt cinematic in its simplicity, the kind of quiet routine you'd find in small-town America. Every morning, he'd lace up his sneakers, whistle in hand, and walk into the local gym where he taught physical education to middle school kids who adored him more for his jokes than his jump shots. Colleagues remember him as the guy who'd stay late after class, singing softly while cleaning up basketballs, unaware that his voice echoed like something pulled straight out of an old soul record. Music had always been part of him, but never the focus, at least not until his colleagues and students began pushing him to audition for American Idol. He had tried before several times, each ending in rejection, but this time something was different. The pandemic years had reshaped his sense of purpose. Life felt fragile and dreams more urgent. So when auditions opened for season 23, packed his old guitar, kissed his 3 daughters, and drove for hours to stand in a line filled with teenagers chasing stardom. No entourage, no stylist, no expectations. Just a man, his voice, and a quiet hope that maybe this time life would listen. The moment he stepped in front of the judges, that hope found its sound. The judges didn't just hear notes, they heard a story, years of struggle, faith, and the weight of someone who had worked too hard for too long without recognition. In that instant, stopped being Mr. Roberts, the gym teacher. He became something much more, a reminder that sometimes the biggest stars are hiding in the most ordinary places. The breakthrough audition that changed everything. The day of Roberts' audition is now part of American Idol folklore, one of those rare moments when time seems to freeze and the judges forget the cameras are rolling. He walked in wearing a plain denim shirt, no flashy outfit, no rehearsed swagger. But when he began to sing Hamilton's Her Heart, something shifted in the room. His voice, deep, soulful, and full of quiet pain, carried the weight of every rejection, every unpaid bill, and every dream deferred. You could see it in the judges' faces. They weren't just evaluating another hopeful contestant, they were witnessing a man revealing his soul. Harry covered her mouth in disbelief, Lionel's eyes glistened, and Brian shook his head with a grin that said, "We just found something special." When the final note faded, the room stayed silent for a heartbeat before exploding into applause. But what truly sealed the moment wasn't just the music, it was humility afterward. Instead of celebrating, he simply smiled and said, "I just wanted to make my girls proud." That one sentence sent ripples across social media. Clips of his audition went viral overnight, amassing millions of views. Viewers weren't just impressed, they were emotionally invested. Suddenly, this small-town teacher wasn't just chasing his dream, he was carrying the dreams of everyone who ever thought it was too late to start again. From that moment on, American Idol season 23 wasn't just a singing competition. It became the story of Roberts, the man who reminded America that authenticity still matters. And as the competition progressed, it became clear, this wasn't just a feel-good story, it was the making of a modern legend. Inside the grand finale, millions voted, one dream realized. By the time the grand finale of American Idol season 23 aired on May 18, 2025, Roberts had already become a fan favorite, not because of expensive production or flashy stage tricks, but because every time he opened his mouth, people felt something real. The finale felt less like a competition and more like a national celebration of authenticity. Standing beside 2 younger, trendier finalists, Nix and John Foster looked calm, almost detached from the chaos of television lights and screaming fans. But when the opening chords of his final performance, once again Hamilton's Her Heart, filled the air, it was as if the entire studio took a collective breath. His voice was stronger, more grounded, but what moved millions was the emotion behind it. The raw gratitude, the father's pride, the man who knew what it meant to work for a dream. As confetti rained down and announced him as the winner, he didn't scream or cry dramatically. Instead, he dropped his head, clasped his hands, and whispered a prayer. It was humility on live television, something the audience hadn't seen in a long time. Across America, people erupted in cheers, social media exploded with Roberts, and news outlets dubbed him the people's idol. Reports later confirmed he had received more than 26 million votes, one of the highest totals in Idol history. But beneath that victory was a quiet reality, was about to enter a world he had never been prepared for. The flashing lights and interviews were one thing, but the expectations, the pressure, and the scrutiny of fame would soon prove to be far more complicated. Because even as the nation celebrated his triumph, his next challenge was already waiting, and this time it wouldn't be on stage. The dark side of fame, threats, and the key to the city controversy. Fame, as it turned out, wasn't the Roberts imagined. Just weeks after his historic win, the joyful headlines began to twist into something darker. Local officials in his of Meridian, Mississippi wanted to honor their new hero with a key to the city ceremony, a symbolic event that would draw cameras, fans, and civic pride. But behind the scenes was receiving alarming messages. Anonymous threats, strange letters, and even online harassment began flooding his social media accounts. Some claimed he didn't deserve to win, others attacked his faith and family. According to reports, the situation escalated enough that he quietly declined the city's invitation, citing safety and privacy concerns. To the public, the decision sounded humble, but to those close to him, it was a sign of a man learning the heavy cost of fame. The same internet that once lifted him up was now turning cruel and invasive. It was a sobering reminder that the spotlight doesn't just reveal your talent, it exposes your entire life. Fans behind him with hashtags like Protect trending across platforms, but the damage was done. In interviews, he admitted that while he was grateful for the love, the intensity of attention was something no one can prepare you for. The man who once sang from a school gym now had to move with caution, limit appearances, and protect his daughters from the glare of fame. The key to the city that was meant to symbolize pride instead became a lesson in vulnerability. For Roberts, this was the moment he realized that being an idol wasn't just about music, it was about endurance. And as the noise around him grew louder, he made a decision that would change everything, to turn inward, back to his roots, and let his next song tell the story for him. His family's reaction, the daughters who kept him grounded. For all the chaos and sudden fame that surrounded Roberts after his American Idol victory, the anchor that kept him from drifting away was his family, especially his 3 daughters. And little while the rest of America debated contracts, record deals, and headlines, his focus remained simple, being a father first. In interviews, he often smiled when asked about their reactions, recalling how the girls jumped on the couch screaming, "Daddy won," as confetti rained down on television. Yet in their innocence, they didn't fully understand what that victory meant. To them, their father wasn't a celebrity. He was still the man who made pancakes on Saturdays, who sang them lullabies before bed, and who sometimes forgot to fold the laundry. That innocence became his compass amid the noise. When fans crowded his home and paparazzi lingered near his street, it was his daughter's laughter that reminded him of what truly mattered. He spoke candidly about struggling to balance interviews and family dinners, admitting that fame could easily pull him away from the people he loved most. His wife and extended family stepped in to create a circle of protection around him, shielding the girls from online attention and unwanted media exposure. "They don't need to grow up in the spotlight," he said once, his tone firm but tender. That decision, to keep his children out of the frenzy, earned him respect from fans who saw him not just as a singer but as a man of integrity. And while many reality show winners chase instant stardom, chose something different, a slower, steadier path built on family and faith. Behind every television appearance, there was still a father wiping syrup off his daughter's cheek, reminding himself that no trophy could ever replace that kind of joy. The single Mississippi and his message to America. When the noise of interviews and headlines began to fade, Roberts turned to the one thing that had always spoken truer than words: music. His debut single, Mississippi, released just a few months after his American Idol win, wasn't crafted to chase charts or trends. It was written like a letter to his home, his struggles, and to the people who believed in him before the world even knew his name. The song's tone was soulful yet raw, weaving gospel undertones with southern blues and gentle R&B lyrically. It told the story of growing up in the Deep South, of facing doubt and discrimination but finding faith in the simple things: family, community, and perseverance. It wasn't the glamorous debut many expected. It was honest, reflective, and deeply personal. Fans were quick to notice that the track didn't glorify his victory but instead humbled it. "This one's for the people back home," said in an Instagram post alongside a photo of himself barefoot in a field near Meridian. Within hours, Mississippi climbed streaming charts, praised for its authenticity. Music critics compared it to the storytelling of John Legend mixed with the soul of Hamilton. But for the success wasn't about numbers, it was about reclaiming his peace. After months of being defined by television producers, viral clips, and public scrutiny, Mississippi was his way of reminding the world and himself who he truly was. The song carried an unspoken message to America. That winning didn't change him, it just gave him a louder microphone to speak his truth. And through that song, listeners could hear not just a man singing about his roots, but one rediscovering them. Balancing fame and normal life in Meridian, Mississippi. After the whirlwind of national fame, Roberts faced a challenge that no singing competition could have prepared him for: how to live a normal life after the world had seen him on one of its biggest stages. While many past American Idol winners packed up and moved to Los Angeles or Nashville, made the unconventional choice to stay in Meridian, Mississippi. It was a decision that spoke volumes about the kind of man he was. "This is home," he said in one interview, standing in front of the modest brick house where he had lived long before Idol. Staying meant his daughters could go to the same school, his neighbors could still wave from across the street, and he could wake up to the sound of cicadas instead of paparazzi. But of course, staying also came with its own weight. People began showing up at his gym class, asking for autographs during his lunch break, or leaving letters in his mailbox. Overnight, his small town became a place of pilgrimage for fans wanting to meet the humble teacher who made it big. At first, it was flattering, but soon it became overwhelming. He spoke about feeling torn between the simple life he cherished and the expectations of being a public figure. Still, he refused to let fame define him. He continued volunteering at local community centers, mentoring young singers, and attending church every Sunday as he always had. Those close to him say that this grounding routine was his therapy, a reminder that fame is temporary but character lasts. Even when major record labels called, offering relocation and brand deals, chose to stay put for now, saying, "You can take the man out of Mississippi, but you can't take Mississippi out of the man." It was a statement that resonated deeply with fans, proving that authenticity wasn't just his image, it was his identity. The future tour offers an industry pressure. With fame now part of his daily life, Roberts entered a stage that most reality show winners never talk about publicly: the post-victory pressure. Winning American Idol had opened doors, but each door came with expectations. Record executives wanted a quick album to capitalize on his momentum, TV networks offered guest appearances, and brand sponsors dangled lucrative deals that promised fame but demanded compromise. However, wasn't the kind of artist who could be easily molded. He wanted time to write, to reflect, and to create music that told stories rather than sold products. Insiders revealed that this caused some tension between him and certain management executives eager to turn him into a commercial product. They wanted a superstar, one close friend said, but wanted to be an artist. Despite the industry pressure, he took his time before agreeing to any major deals, focusing instead on planning a small tour across southern states. The Back to My Roots tour, scheduled for late 2025, would see perform in local theaters, churches, and even schools, a decision that shocked some but touched many. It was classic, grounded, genuine, and quietly defiant. At the same time, whispers began spreading that bigger labels like RCA and Motown were keeping tabs, hoping to sign him if his independent route proved successful. But even with those temptations, priorities never wavered. He talked openly about not wanting to lose control of his music or his message, saying, "I don't want to make songs that sound like everyone else's story. I want to make songs that sound like mine." As 2025 rolled into its final months, fans eagerly awaited his next move, wondering whether he would step fully into the commercial spotlight or continue walking his own quiet path through Mississippi's red clay roads. What Roberts represents today. Today, Roberts stands as more than just the 2025 winner of American Idol. He's become a symbol of hope, humility, and the enduring power of staying true to yourself in a world obsessed with image. While many winners before him faded from the spotlight, his legacy is defined not by how loudly he shouts his success, but by how quietly he lives it. He represents every ordinary person who's ever dreamed beyond their circumstances, every parent juggling responsibility with passion, and every artist who refuses to trade authenticity for fame. His journey from a small-town gym to the national stage reminded millions that talent doesn't always wear designer clothes or live in big cities. Sometimes, it teaches PE in Mississippi. The man who once stood under confetti with tears in his eyes now lives a balanced life, still recording music, still raising his daughters, still grounded in faith. And while the industry continues to circle him, waiting for a bigger story may already be complete in its simplicity. He didn't just win a show, he redefined what winning meant. In an era of viral fame and fleeting idols, Roberts remains the kind of artist people don't just listen to, they believe in. His rise, his struggles, and his quiet perseverance are proof that the American dream still exists, just not always where we expect it. So when people ask, what happened to Roberts? The answer isn't tragic or scandalous, it's profoundly human. He went home, he stayed grounded, and he kept singing his truth. And maybe that's the greatest victory of all.